Hi there. In this lecture I have a horror story of a game to show you. Playing with the black pieces is a very solid superpositional super grandmaster, Michael Adams. And he is around my age. I saw him demolish all the juniors around my age in various tournaments. Even in Blitz chess, his intuition, it was shown, it was absolutely remarkable, especially in Blitz chess. He was wiping the floor with all the other up-and-coming IMs and GMs on the British chess scene, like Chris Ward, Summerscale, Martazavi, Hennigan. He could destroy everyone. He's an ultra-positional player. If you want to learn about the downsides of certain positions, then Michael Adams is someone to check out, for sure. And in this game, he completely... spoiler alert, he completely demolishes world title contender Sergei Karjakin. And this is, to me, evidence why bishop b5 is worthy of investigation instead of the bishop g3 and f4 plans, which you may have seen in traditional London system courses. So let's have a look at this game. This was played in the Tatar Steel Tournament of 2016. So Sergei Karjakin with the white pieces plays d4. We have knight f6, bishop f4, d5. So playing a positional opening against a superpositional player might not always be the best idea, especially if you leave weaknesses in the center. So we have knight f3, c5, c3, knight c6. We get a position of interest to us by transposition here. We have bishop d6, and now this retreat bishop g3. So there's an argument that Magnus Carlsen's bishop b5 is worthy of investigation here to try and contest the e5 square. One of the traditional ideas of this retreat is to kind of say about having a stonewall attack, you know, with knight e5 and f4 later, which looks all cozy and nice, very easy to play. And it's something my father, rest in peace, he used to play it against me all the time. So he would play his Stonewall system, I'd play my King's Engine system, and we'd have a lot of fun games together. He really got me into chess. I was watching him play my brother. And then my brother kind of gave up when I started beating him quite a lot. But anyway, my father was a great fan of the Stonewall system. But there is an Achilles heel, the e4 square. And if you don't believe me, that's why we're going to check out this game. Black castled here. Michael Adams castled here. We have bishop d3, b6, and now knight e5. So white's playing this kind of traditional recommendation of playing a kind of stonewall attack with the bishop on g3 instead of c1. Doesn't this work against Super Grandmaster Michael Adams, one of the most talented positional players in UK chess history? Well, let's see. Black plays knight e7 here, and there's a plan afoot, a very instructive plan afoot here, involving the e4 Achilles heel. The plan is knight f5, bishop goes to e7 to vacate d6 for that knight to swivel round, both knights look at e4, and it gets worse. If a pawn's on e4, you get a bishop to d5, and this bishop is kind of dead in its own pawns still. It's kind of blocked in, and we're about to see an even worse scenario where white castles queenside to compound things even further. So queen f3, and it makes for a truly, in my view, classic horror story to tell generations in the future, this game. So knight f5, we have bishop f2, bishop e7, g4, the knight swivels round to the e4 square, g5, knight fe4, and now white castles queenside. Anyway, if white castles kingside, there's a slight downside here. Knight takes d2 in any case. So white castled queenside. Yes, it does conveniently protect the knight, but at what cost? Isn't black going to smash white to bits with c4 and b5, b4 later? We have c4 with tempo, bishop c2, b5. This already looks slightly suspect, as Ben Feingold might say sometimes. Slightly suspect, this position for white here. We have queen h3 being played. Yes, the knight's pinned to h7. There's no knight takes f2 because of queen takes h2. But I think Michael Adams can spot the odd tactic as well. He plays actually b4. We have knight takes, d takes, and one of the key points here is that as well as this bishop kind of hemmed in by its own pawns, black in this scenario has bishop d5. You might think, okay, a bishop on d5 looks pretty. It's also functional as well. It actually supports b3 as a threat, which makes things even worse for white. This is a nightmare scenario rapidly emerging on the board. If white if black had played knight takes e4, this would have been less accurate, and maybe after bishop e1, rook g1, the pain that white experiences might be less than in what happened. This is just an analysis example, and yeah, there's various maybe things going on that white might have some rook g4, rook h4, which explains the top choices the neural networks have in this variation is this, with equality apparently. So, but Adams actually played d takes e4, so he vacates d5, which gives new energy to the black position, new capabilities after bishop d5. We have bishop e1, bishop d5. White's attacking prospects, you know, they exist in a theoretical sense, but black is getting to white's king quite quickly here. We have rook g1, b3, so with tempo, with that big bishop on d5 supporting this, bishop b1, and now f5, so stopping the use of rook g4 anyway. G takes, bishop takes, rook g4 is played now, but you know, the bishop guards h4, and the bishop also guards g7. We have knight f5 reinforcing like concrete g7 and h4, and looking at e3. If rook c8 here, as another example, if bishop h4, queen a5, this position is also kind of potentially really promising for black. So this is like a fictional scenario where black can crash through on the c file, like this for example. It's very, very dangerous position indeed, but knight f5 is one of many good moves for black here. Just look at this, and yes, this isn't a one-off Adams game. He's positionally massacred tons of us British hackers and tactical players. He's made us look cheap. This quiet guy from Cornwall has humiliated many a British player, destroyed the hopes and dreams of many. But he did come to my 18th birthday party, which was an honour actually. And it was a bad day for him. He had just lost to Sadler in some tournament, and was a bit annoyed, especially when I asked him to show that game. He didn't really want to. But anyway, he's a nice guy, very nice guy, one of the lads, as they say. But he's also a positional genius, an absolute positional genius. So we have king d2, queen a5, king e2, and now bishop takes e5 was played. D takes e5. There are theories that maybe, you know, Cornwall created his positional calmness, his calmness when he glides the pieces, when he crushes us all, gliding the pieces calmly. It must be the Cornwall culture or something reflected in his play. But anyway, rook a d8, we have king f2. If rook g1, yes, then a disaster. Bishop c4 check and rook takes d1 as an example. So king f2, the king scrambling over here. Has it left something behind? Yes, I believe the b2 pawn is a bit vulnerable in this particular position. We have queen a1, which also kind of pins the bishop to the rook. This is a very unusual kind of move to play, isn't it? Queen a1. But is black's king feeling any issues? I would say no. The knight is stopping any naughty business. There's just no concrete threats for white at all. White's been made to look like a total bunny, really. I mean, if we didn't know it was Karjakin, Sergei Karjakin playing, you know, who is this player with white? Okay, so bishop d2, bishop c4. Now we have queen h5, trying to do something. I mean, don't get me wrong, Sergei Karjakin is an amazing tactical player, but he does need a good position, because tactics, as Fischer says, Bobby Fischer, tactics flow often from a superior position. And here it's certainly not a superior position. We have queen takes b2. Tactics are more flowing for black here. Nasty pin on d2. And after king e1, guess what the hammer blow is here, if I give you 5 seconds. So this is at move 31. Black to play here. Can you guess? Yes. Rook takes d2. And white had to resign. If rook takes d2, queen c1 check, and yes, it's amusing, forget taking the rook, queen f1, look for the strongest move all the time, the absolute strongest, most irreversible move going. Queen f1 is checkmate, it ends the game. Yes. Now, yes, the traditional London system courses, which they may be telling you fantasy stories, you know, fairy tales, and they might start their courses, by the way, with d4, d5. I wanted to treat you in this course like adults and show you this horror story, which is also why, by the way, we start off with knight d4, knight f6, which after a certain level becomes the most popular move, reflecting the hypermodern theories of chess. So I wanted to treat you like an adult in this course, generally. And this horror story reinforces the notion that actually, you know, bishop g3 is a bit of a fairy tale with knight e5 to f4. I'm sorry to say. And Magnus Carlsen is aware of this. And you'll look and you'll see in recent years, bishop b5 has been gaining ground as a way of contesting positionally the e5 square. This is a severe warning note game. I don't usually show London system games under such disastrous circumstances, but I felt it was a very important warning to give you about this bishop g3. If you're aiming for a stonewall transposition, which is a nice opening up to a certain level, be aware, if black's playing positioning against e4, this is limiting your future prospects against the more positional players who are really going to, they might know this Adams stem game as well, and they're just going to routinely recreate what Adams played. It's also, by the way, a similar plan against the Dutch stonewall when you're playing white to try and get your knights around the e5 square, and that goes back to, you know, it's like the 50s, 60s Mikhail Botvinnik era. So it's well known that the stonewall in general, if you have a stonewall structure with e4, you're asking to be positionally destroyed with zero counterplay. So I hope you've been warned. Please note this key game. And I think we should clarify fairy tales where fairy tales exist, because otherwise you're going to get unstuck in certain games against certain players. Okay, thanks very much. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed my free sample lecture, and you might want to check out my course, Kingscrusher TV/London System, and that is with a discounted code. So this is a great course with approaching over 850 students, nearly 848 at the time of this recording. So this covers everything that can be thrown at you when you play the London system. I've covered all the main kind of system replies from black, including even outrageous moves which you might have to face as well in the final chapters. So quite a lot of content here, over 20 hours of video content, approaching 21 hours, 124 lectures, 13 sections. So everything you want to know about the London system. It's a very good opening in terms of cost benefit for getting a position you can play with, a solid position, and you can spend more of your time on chess working on your tactics and your end games as well, instead of wasting your time maybe learning tons of sharp opening theory which might never turn up. So with the London system, it's kind of ironclad guarantee. You know, you can use it in your games with white, and you know you can get a safe position with the white pieces without too much fuss, and you can improve other weak links potentially of your chess understanding, like spend time doing tactics training, endgame training, etc. So it's a great thing in my view in terms of improving your chess generally, even though some critics might argue, or you don't get a variety of pawn structures. That's not true. This system tells you how to adjust the standard triangle depending on what the opponent does. So you do get, in fact, an experience of different pawn structures if you want to be more ambitious and use the recommendations of this course. So I hope you check it out. Thanks very much.